Welcome to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, where we discuss dating and other significant relationships.
Hello, señorita.
Hola, Poppy.
What's happening?
I'm telling you what, this year is galloping by, and I have just blinked, and it feels like the Christmas aisle is already full at the stores. We haven't even gotten to Halloween, but Christmas is already out. So I'm excited about our show tonight, though. As fast as the year is flying, some relationships kind of go by in a blur, just like that. And tonight we're going to talk about one of the key components to a good relationship, or maybe not, according to who you're talking to. Chemistry. Chemistry. What is so important about all those chemical reactions in the body, and what is going on?
Oh man, I really want to dissect this because I have heard a few school of thoughts on this. I've heard the side that states that you can work and you can build sexual chemistry. And then there are the other side, which basically is either we naturally have it or we don't.
Mm.
So where do you fall on that?
I honestly, in everything, I'm always about balance. I really think it's a bit of both. I have been attracted to people immediately because of what I see, what I smell, how a person feels, interacting with them, mentally engaging and all that. But then there have been people that I did not necessarily look at as being attracted to them, but the more I was in their presence, the more their personality, uh, you know, I got engaged with, something started to bubble up and feelings started to be felt. So I think it's quite possible to do both, but I think um, chemistry can't be the only thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I
Okay.
can't be in a sustainable relationship only going off of chemistry and what we feel together that way. Because to me, it's almost like that's a physical response to someone, like, what your body automatically does based on your senses. But then my rational mind takes over, like, how practical is this person? If they live somewhere far off, am I going to really get to see them often enough to make this reaction worth it? So there are other factors to, I think, making the relationship count, but chemistry for me is important. Yes.
So I would say my stance on this is, for example, right, whenever you get intimate with someone, as long as it was a good experience and you were satisfied and you were taken care of and felt comfortable, then to me that's a good starting point, and then you can absolutely work on even maximizing that, right? Especially
Right.
once you kind of start to learn somebody's body, once you start to get more intimate emotionally with each other, once you start to explore together, all those things are going to bring you closer together, which
Mm-hmm.
in turn should create better intimacy and also enhance the pleasure. However, if you get with someone and you do not feel satisfied or feel taken care of or whatnot, and then you're trying to force the issue, like, for example, right, myself, I am someone who's very interested in BDSM, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
I meet a woman who is not into BDSM and then I'm trying to force that on her, that's going to play a factor in our sexual chemistry.
Absolutely.
So my thing is, you have to have a good baseline, and I'll give you an example. Because I've had these conversations. We've talked about this topic for a few days, and I've kind of gauged different opinions for different people, and they all kind of seem to fall on either you have it or you can improve on what you already have, or either it has to be there or it won't work, kind of thing. But for example, right, I've heard a lot of women say that first kiss is going to tell me everything.
Mm.
And I do believe there is a lot of truth in that, because I've been out on dates with women where it went well,
Hmm.
but it wasn't anything intimate, or it wasn't anything touchy. And then we kissed, and then a good sweet night turned into a fun wild night.
Oh,
So
listen. And
that
I, on the
is
other hand, have kissed, and it's like,
so
not
that's my
gonna
point,
be any
right?
night ever again.
So that's my point, right? That right there, if you have a good date with somebody and then that kiss leaves a lot to be desired, then you're going to be like, oof, that was, I don't know if I could handle that, or I didn't like how that felt, or I didn't feel any sparks, or I didn't feel me getting excited and turned on. And that can happen to men too.
Hmm.
Because I have heard some men say that, yeah, this, I kissed this woman, and it wasn't enjoyable, or it wasn't how I like a woman to kiss me, and it was a turnoff. So to me, that's why, kind of going back to the previous topics as far as 90 days and celibacy,
Hmm.
even though I respect the stance and the purpose why people do those things, I myself personally would never um, engulf in a serious relationship, let alone marriage, without being aware that we have good sexual chemistry. That's just my stance and my view on that, based on what I've learned up to this point, and obviously based on previous dating experience and previously being married.
Yeah, it is such a big part. The physicality of a relationship is such a huge part of it. Not the only thing, of course, um, but you know, to me, gauging that at this age, I'm like you, haven't been married, haven't lived a little bit now. Like, there's some things that have to go together, like peanut butter and jelly. We are not going to like have a completely mental relationship. We're not going to just be, talking on the phone, chatting. So how are we going to figure that out if there is not some level of testing to see what the chemistry is like? So, I'm totally with you on that, and um, I agree. Like that to me is a non. It's a deal breaker if I met a man who really isn't into physical touch and affection, and that is just that would be very incompatible with who I am and what my needs are. And honestly, if you think about it, I was looking up the definition. One definition says the complex emotional or psychological interaction between two people. And when you talk about the emotions, you are talking about dopamine, serotonin, um, endorphins that are triggered in the brain. And so I was doing some brain research for something. I can't remember if it was like trauma or something like that I've been studying. And it talked about how the brain fires when you're in love, what we call in love. And basically, you got all of these complex um, hormonal, shots going through the brain, and it's triggering the pleasure center. And so, really, chemistry between two people is a lot of that. Like, how much do you know that it's not just a high? We're getting high basically off the way somebody looks, the way somebody smells, the way somebody feels is going to our pleasure centers. And so I had to really, I guess this is the thing about celibacy, to pull yourself away from those chemicals for just a brief period of time. I can understand, like the 90-day rule or something like that, just to make sure somebody isn't just firing your brain really well for a short period of time. But what happens, like, psychotic relationships, or just toxic relationships, let's say. There's some people who have, what we call it in the streets, stigmatized. They've gotten so sexually in tune with somebody, and their feel good pleasure centers are getting turned on so much that if that person talks to them any kind of way, treats them any kind of way, doesn't do anything that resembles a relationship outside of sex, that can make somebody hooked. And that's not a real good basis for a relationship. But then on the other flip side of it, like you said, do you go down the road and then what if you encounter that y'all don't really set each other off because you didn't kiss, you didn't touch, you didn't do anything to see like how compatible you would be?
Yeah, and you know what? If we start to dig deeper into this, when you ask yourself, how do people stay in toxic relationships for so long, or why do
Mm-hmm.
people deal or entertain toxic people? And oftentimes, there's many reasons. Whether it be codependency, or whether it be past trauma bonding, or upbringing, and that's just what you know, so you don't see it as a volatile or toxic relationship, but almost something normal because that's what your normal looked like growing up, whether it be from your environment or family or upbringing, etc., or because of the sex,
Right.
because of the physical pleasure that this person gives you. So yeah, you can have great sexual chemistry, but if everything else is at odds, at opposite, or not aligned, that's still not going to be enough for a healthy relationship to flourish and to grow and to really be in unison as one.
Right. Right. And honestly, okay, so if you're still trying to procreate and have children with somebody, like that's a huge component. It's a huge important factor in whether you're going to want to even create a baby with a person. So, it's not just for pleasure's sake, but also about, you know, do I really want to do it enough times to have a baby with somebody? Um, just from a strictly scientific standpoint. But I think, so for instance, like vibing with somebody, you know, for me, I'm very sapiosexual. I get very turned on mentally first before I am physically. So, like, you can't come to me with a limited vocabulary, limited range of experience in terms of like your life experience. And, as far as like you have never traveled, you don't want to travel, um, personal development, I would not be turned on by that. But I've had to admit, like, I've run across some, former beaux who, when I first got with them, I was all in, flame was high, you couldn't tell me shit as far as like, oh my God, yes,
Right.
he's the one. But now I run across, maybe those same people after the magic has gone, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what in the world was I thinking? I mean, honest to goodness, Poppy, it's just like, what in the world put me in such a trance? And I can only consider like chemistry sometimes because it's like I would
Oh, that
not
sexual
even
chemistry will
consider
blind you.
them.
Oh, that
Right.
sexual chemistry will blind you. I'm telling you. And listen, it happens to men too. Don't get me wrong. This is it happens to a lot of people, not just women. Because I've seen some men that they get hooked on a woman, and it's because they're
Yeah.
great lovers, and they really enjoy the physical aspect of it, and they're like, man, that creates that feeling of scarcity in our mind. And when you feel like something is scarce, you value it differently, you see it differently. Now when something is in
Right.
abundance, obviously you go about it differently, and you kind of almost take it for granted subconsciously. So um yeah, I mean, to me, just from conversations that I've had with people who have been married for a long time and that have had long, prosperous marriages, they definitely, go on record that, yeah, a sexy, healthy sex life and good sexual chemistry is a must. And if you do your research as far as divorce rates and the reasons why people divorce, um, romance and sex are right up there with,
Yeah.
a slew of
Look,
reasons,
or
but
lack thereof.
that's, or lack thereof. Yeah. But also, hey, that kind of comes full circle, right? Like, hey, I don't like having sex with this person that much because this person doesn't really please me that much. So,
Right, right. And that's
you
something you
know,
gotta kind of you gotta dig into again, like you said earlier, is it me? Am I going through some sort of change, emotionally? Is there something going on in my family? Is there something happening where, maybe I'm just off, especially if like you're in a relationship right now, but the chemistry feels like things have changed, or, you know, things aren't as fever pitch maybe as they were in the beginning. Like, could there be some mitigating factors? Are there things that are happening that are throwing you off your good juju, if you will? And you know sometimes it is like, sometimes after a woman has kids and you've been with a child all day, especially a baby, and you're tired, your body feels like it's foreign to you. um Again, because the hormones are circulating and changing and are unstable at that time, then that can throw your chemistry with your partner off. So I think people really need to be aware that slight things can change. Like, if you get into a routine, maybe your partner does the same routine every time you get together. Like, maybe you need to change things up because you're in a static pattern and you're bored. And so your brain's not firing off the feel good chemicals because this isn't new anymore. It's the same old. Um, so I think, you know, just looking for chemistry by itself, and that's all you're looking for, of course, I would not do that. And I don't think most of our listeners are those people. But I just feel like it needs to be said. Make sure you check all your vital signs in your relationship. Like, is your money funny? Because I'm gonna tell you something. It's real hard to feel good about your partner and you're in a committed relationship and your money is funny. um that used to make me so tight sometimes. I didn't want to open up and be physical and express my feelings because I was in my mind about worries over money. Worries over the kids, worries over work. Sometimes those things can really chop off what could be a great situation. So, again, we talk about people really making sure you're ready to date, because sometimes if you feel like you meet all these people but you found nobody who lights your fire for you, maybe it's not a good time for you to date. Maybe you're still healing from something, maybe you're still dealing with something, and maybe you need to like put yourself on the sidelines until you can go in with the right, with yourself, with a reset, I guess.
and I would say that another thing too, right? For talking to the men here, and I guess some women do enjoy good porn, but a lot of men, this isn't a secret, a lot of men enjoy porn, and they really get hung up on what they see on porn stars, and Playboy bunnies and all that, and I don't know how realistic that is for you know,
Hmm.
your average woman. But a man is coming in with those expectations and those desires. And I also, put the onus on women as well, right? Like, hey, you got all these different toys, or you want to rely on these things, and then you're wondering why you're not responding to a man. There's studies out there that say that overuse of toys
Hmm.
can almost make you desensitized. So therefore, when you're with a man, it makes it harder for you to find pleasure with that man. So it's not always on the man. It's that, hey, you're
Yeah.
relying on all these toys so much that when you get a man who doesn't move at the pace and speed and
Hmm.
recover as quickly as a toy can,
Right.
then that also can be a challenge. So you also have to be mindful of those things, right? When it comes to the sexual chemistry. But um, the reason why I brought up the point about kissing is because I want you to think back. When was the last time that you went out on a date and you had a bad kiss and then you went back out with that guy?
Oh, Let me think on that. I
I'm
did
gonna say
not.
with not many. If he gave you a bad kiss after that date,
Mm-mm.
you might be like,
And I'm gonna
Now
tell
I
you
want you to
something,
think,
Poppy. Let me tell you
and
something.
now I want you to think back on how many dates that have gone well,
Hmm.
and then you had a great kiss, and then you were like, "Oof, I can't wait to see this man again." You feel
Absolutely,
me?
100. But I'm gonna tell you something.
Let's just keep it a
Men,
buck. And I'm like, listen, and I've had dates where I did not expect it to get to that level, but that kiss, it just turned up the heat.
listen,
It unleashed.
listen, unleash the beast. Well, I just have to say this though. But here's another thing, okay? Because a kiss, I used to tell kids in my family, listen, kissing equals babies. Because the right kind of kiss will get you going. And like you said, next thing you know, you're fired up, ready to go into the next level.
And next thing you know, you're doing stuff that you had
No
no
business.
plans and no
Yeah,
intentions of doing.
right.
But when somebody kisses you the right way, especially if maybe you
Hmm.
haven't been kissed in a while, or you've just kind of been sitting on the sidelines doing your thing, and then somebody
Right.
just gives you that butterfly kiss feeling, oh
Yeah.
man,
On that
you
right
lose all rhyme or
spot.
reason.
On that right spot. But don't come with garlic breath. All right. I just need to put that out here right now. Okay. And I'm not gonna say any names because it's a SES on there. Names.
Uh-oh.
Do not come
No,
with
we're
garlic
we're not
breath.
we're not gonna put people on blast,
No,
but
but I am gonna
I
say
want
this.
but I think but that just relates to my point,
You're
right? That
turning down the
sexual
chemistry.
chemistry is super important, and I
Mm-hmm.
want all the ladies to reflect and be like, hey, the last time I went on a date and I had a bad kiss, did I ever see that guy again? And if your answer is no, then there's your answer.
Mm-mm. I did not. And honestly, sometimes too, it's not just the like not just the kiss, but like, okay, ladies, y'all seen Poppy. He's beautiful. He is even more beautiful in person. Okay. Let's go on and put it
You're
out
gonna make
there.
a brown man blush. Now you know that's
Ah,
very hard to do.
listen, he is beautiful, y'all. He's beautiful. But okay, Poppy, I have been out on dates with men who are not as beautiful as you, but they brought this energy, like this real, for me, now I can't speak for everyone, but for me, masculine energy, this kind of real raw sex appeal. And I don't know, that just kind of like, woo, child. But then there's the men that come to the date, their shoulders slumped, they whiny hiney, and it's tone of their voice ain't hardly got no bass in it. And I'm just like, what the hell are you doing? Go home and start over. A man's lack of confidence, and I'm sure probably for you, for women, that lack of confidence does not turn me on. It's just like, I'm not going to do anything with you because, first of all, you don't look like you could get us out of no kind of mess. Second of all, you got this wimp appeal, not whip appeal, like Babyface said. I just need you now. I don't need you to be toxic masculinity where you trying to order for me and stuff. But I need you to be confident in who you are and that you bring something wonderful to the table in order to even captivate, like unlocking any kind of dopamine in my head.
Mm.
So, I can't even kiss you if you look like you can't kiss well and you can't. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like those men are out there and I'm sorry, they're not for me. And everybody deserves love. Everybody deserves somebody that can love. But if you don't act like you love yourself, and I don't mean in a cocky, overconfident, arrogant type way, but I mean like I've had some men who like they might not be on the cover of GQ, but they could get my number because they knew how to step to me, they knew how to talk to me. They came at me with some real like amazing energy. So I'll just say that too. That has to be a big factor in chemistry for me.
Oh, listen, remember I think we've touched on this before on prior episodes, but um there are some people who believe that women know within the first 7 seconds whether they would sleep with a man or not.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and obviously that kiss will just either confirm and reiterate that sensation, or it's just going to be like, "Oop, my bad."
Right. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And this is what I really I'm feeling a little pet peevish on this episode. So let me just go and let it out there since we're talking. But don't come at me online, in my DMs, in my chat, on my text, with all this great energy, and then you show up looking like who done it? You know, like don't come at me like you Superman, and then you give me Clark Kent on the date. Okay,
Yeah,
you know
gotta
I
be
think.
careful
Wait a minute,
with
that's a
that.
bad
That's
example. I
why,
think
listen,
Clark Kent is
don't
cute. Wait a minute, let me think
listen.
of
That's
another
why
one.
it's good just to don't bite off more than you can chew, because a woman
Yeah.
will remember. So if you over here walking around like you're gonna, drop a Whopper and you just giving out Happy Meals, that's gonna be a
Oh no,
problem.
you didn't.
That's
Okay,
why
people,
I'd
that's the
rather just
tagline for the show right there.
I'd rather just keep it cool and let your actions speak.
Yes, that's right. Listen, a former used to say, "Under promise and over deliver."
See,
Please.
you smell what I'm cooking.
Yes, absolutely. But don't be look, look over here with the Whopper and you dropping out Happy Meals. What? You know I'm gonna use that. Somebody is gonna get that.
Yeah, I saw that on a meme once. I was like, oh yeah, it was a meme that I saw. It was something to that
I
effect where
love it.
she was like, it was like the woman saying like, yeah, I thought I had a Whopper, and then dot dot dot, it was just a Happy Meal.
Ooh. Okay, so this is another thing. Okay, we're going here tonight. I don't know what's come over me, but if you always talking about, you gonna just what do people say all the time? I'm gonna rock your world, and you don't even rock.
Yeah,
You
that's a
can't even
classic
rock the
line. That's a
boat.
classic line.
You can't even rock the boat. Like, look at yourself. Look at yourself honestly in the mirror and say, can I really do all that I promise?
Oh
We got to
man.
stop lying to ourselves about where our giftings are. You know, if you are small, medium, or large, they don't make mediums. Okay, they don't make mediums. We try to put ourselves in stuff that we don't belong in sometimes. Like you said, you think you can do all this, you talk yourself up, you talk too much, probably your whole crew hyping you up. Stand down. Stand down.
But
Like,
that's where, as people, right, we also have to be mindful to temper our expectations.
right.
Even when I've had good chemistry, good conversation, good banter, good
Mm-hmm.
vibes via phone, via text, via FaceTime, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I still try to keep expectations reasonable, because in my mind, I've already created a certain assumption, a certain image of what I expect and what I'm looking for from this woman. And that may or may not be accurate with reality. So that's why expectations is something that we do have control over, at least in the beginning, right? So as people, right, as individuals, we have to manage them and keep them, reasonable. Um,
Right.
but that's
Sometimes we
important,
can
right?
blow
It's
people
hard.
up. We can blow people up in our own minds. And I think sometimes as a woman, speaking for myself, but I've heard other friends of mine say this, like we have projected so much into a moment. My best friend says this all the time. Like sometimes it was just a moment. We had a moment with somebody that was great. And then we are already um, doing multiplication tables times 100th power to that moment and
Yep.
putting it across like it's going to be such a fabulous potential relationship, or he's going to be such a fabulous lover, or such a fabulous dad, when really we had a fabulous moment. And in that 10, 15, 20 minutes talking, chatting, bantering, flirting, whatever, it was beautiful. That moment was beautiful. But when we try to stretch it into another thing, it's like, oh Lord, what in the world? Who are you? It's just
Yeah,
like
and then at that point, that crash back to reality is going to be rough.
that part.
and and you just hope, right, that you catch yourself during that fall before it's too late. um and then sometimes we got to be real, right? We have to be
Hmm.
mindful that, hey, you know what, sometimes this person, right, is just a good lover for me, but that's it. Like, they
Yeah.
don't check off all the other boxes. And it's very possible that, hey, you can have great sexual chemistry with somebody, but they're looking for different things, or they're in different phases of life,
They don't have a job.
or
All that.
yeah, that too. Listen, I'm a quote Chris Rock on this. Nothing dries a woman up like a woman that keeps reaching for her purse.
Ooh, yeah. And that's not to say people don't go through transitions. Some of these are jokes. Everybody, don't be too serious. But I am serious to a certain degree, though. It's a part of that compatibility factor. Like you said, the other boxes are not checked, and so it's really hard to move forward with anything meaningful beyond the chemistry. So,
Well, when somebody when I hear somebody say, "Hey, I'm not working," then my next question is, "Well, how long you been looking for a job?"
right,
Because if you haven't been working for a long time, that's a concern.
right,
Because then I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You haven't worked in a year? And in a world where we have Uber, DoorDash, Amazon,
yeah,
Uber Eats,
remote
Lyft,
workers,
like, you could work if you want to. Now, maybe you hadn't found the kind of work that you're looking for. And listen, I get it. Some
yeah,
professions, it's difficult, right, to land in those jobs. And you just have to be persistent. But somebody who hadn't worked in 6 months at all, and they're not, an engineer, or they're not a lawyer or a nurse or whatever, man, you got to at least be like, you got to stash that and be like, that's interesting.
right.
Let me get back to that. Let me monitor that situation.
Yeah, exactly. Because there are some really great potentials out there. Even though I do have to say this, I got a quick story. Okay, everybody, story time with Nelsa.
Hit me.
So, I've been, back online just seeing what's out there or whatever. And I don't normally do this. And so I don't know what possessed me on this day, but I clicked on somebody who did not have a picture because I was like, okay, I don't want to be superficial. There might be somebody tall, dark, and handsome on the other side. He could be great. He could be the one. Well, we get to chatting a little bit, and I was like, tell me a little bit about you, whatever background. And we talked for a minute, but then I just felt like something was just a little off. I was like, so, what do you do? Um, and finally this hesitation came, I could see the dots bubbling. And he said, well, I have to be honest with you, which, man, that's sort of like the equivalent of a woman's we need to talk.
Uh-oh.
So a man says that to me, I was like, oh hell, what are we about to do? He said, currently I'm incarcerated. I
No
said,
way.
oh my,
No
oh
way.
my. I said, really? Um, well, thank you for being honest. Uh, I, I try to be kind to people because I just believe you can't,
Who the hell were
you
you
know,
talking to? Suge Knight? Like, god damn.
I don't, I don't know. He told me what he'd been in for, and you know, I was just like, oh wow, that's a lot.
Let me guess, a
Um,
few unpaid speeding tickets.
a little more than that, just a hair. But I said, oh my gosh, I really found a deal breaker for me. I really
Yeah,
found a deal
being in
breaker for me.
jail is definitely a big deal breaker on many fronts.
But for some women, it is not because you know where he is. You don't have to worry about him being out with other women.
Oh,
But
listen, there's documentaries on that stuff about all these serial killer guys that have like a huge, huge following of, women, for these notorious men that have done heinous crimes and stuff like that. So, yeah,
yeah,
there's
I had to
definitely
say
intrigue
that I
there.
had found my hard boundary. And in terms of chemistry, I did not feel.
He must have conjugal visits or something.
I don't know, but it's
You know
not
what a
gonna be with
conjugal
me.
visit is?
I know what that is, but I know who it won't be with. That's what I'm trying to say, Poppy.
You're like, well, have fun and good luck in there. Hopefully,
I did say
God is
that.
watching over you and
I
you're
did
getting your
say
life
that.
together.
I was just like, oh Lord, I got to stop. Listen, no more. So if you don't put your picture up and it's not really your picture, and I find out, No good. I
Yeah,
can't. I won't do that
I'm
again.
glad that you lived and learned through that and you went unscathed. But
Yeah.
let's be real. When it comes to that, it is 2023. If you don't have a picture on a profile,
Damn.
that's a problem.
Like, what are you hiding?
Everything, there is so many ways to get a picture of yourself. People love selfies. Hell, I'm guilty of it sometimes, so I'm not gonna hear here and stunt. So if you can't put one
Right.
picture of yourself on your dating profile, that's a problem and that's a red flag. So I'm gonna leave it at that with that.
Right. But I felt like I need to throw that out there because that did not light any sparks in me at all. So, ladies, I'm just saying,
Stay
look,
away from dudes that are in jail. That's
well,
that's the moral of the story.
listen now, I'm not even going to go that far. I'm going to do that, but I have no judgment if you are. Because I know there might be some people out there, what they did. It wasn't maybe that bad. They got some stuff that happened and life happens. People make mistakes. I don't even want to go that far and say, never know. I really try not to be that absolute. But like, as far as chemistry is concerned, check yourself. Like, check what your non-negotiables are. Like, check in with yourself about, is this somebody, like, if you got to keep somebody a secret and they can't come around your family, your friends, nobody can really know about them. Is that really a relationship that's healthy? And I know people have sneaky links and all of that too, but like, what are we really doing? In 2023, people out here on Instagram, Facebook, and all these different platforms, but you got to be cloak and daggering somebody in order for you to feel excited, or those kinds of forms of chemistry. I just really wonder about, as far as, like, how far can that really go?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of put a button on this conversation and topic,
Yeah.
I definitely think that it's something to be very mindful of. However, it should not be the only thing to be mindful of, obviously. And I think that it's something that it's important to understand, to explore, and to ask those open-ended questions that help you learn about your partner, or to help you reach to see another side of your partner that maybe you haven't seen. Whether and sometimes it could just be that, hey, they feel a little shy admitting some of their fantasies or some of their things that they
Right.
wish to explore because they fear being judged or maybe being
Yeah.
seen differently once they admit that maybe they do want to go to a swinger club or they do want to go to an adult resort, et cetera, et cetera. So
Right.
it's
Right.
important to, even when you are in a relationship and you feel that maybe you haven't lost the sexual chemistry, but maybe it's time to maybe explore, maybe try different things, spice it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But anyway, this has been a great show. As usual, you can find our shows either on your favorite podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, or you can go to YouTube now and find our podcast uploaded to our YouTube channel. Jorge, give it to them, please.
It is The Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. If you get on YouTube and search, you'll find us. Our symbol, the black and gold emblem. Please support us, comment, like us, subscribe. It's free, and share it with other people so that we can continue to tackle different topics and continue to use our word for good. And thank y'all for the love and support and the feedback that you give us.
Absolutely. Amazing. All right, puppy. Until next time.
Catch you on the flip side. Buenas noches, good people. Thanks for joining us today on The Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Do you have show ideas? Email us at jorgeandnelsa@gmail.com. Follow us on Spotify or anchor.fm for more great shows.